The human ship Dauntless Horizon moved through deep space, its silver hull glowing under the distant light of twin suns. It was the first human vessel allowed near Valari space, a region filled with mystery, silence, and ancient power. Alien races stayed away from the Valar. Their culture was too strict, their history too painful, and their rules too dangerous to break. The crew of the Dauntless Horizon was proud. They had made contact with over 20 alien species before. But this mission was different. This time, they were visiting the homeworld of the Valari matrons, and that came with one very clear rule: do not approach the females of the Valari race. This rule was given not just once, but repeated 3 times during the diplomatic briefing. The alien ambassador, a tall male Valari named Kelvorin, stood on the projection screen in the human meeting room. His voice was calm but firm. "Alori, females are not to be spoken to, touched, or addressed unless they speak first. No exceptions. Even a small mistake could be seen as aggression. Human lives may not be protected in such a case." Captain Illyra Vance, leader of the Dauntless Horizon, gave a short nod. "Understood. We'll follow your customs." Everyone but Lieutenant Mark Rell. And Mark was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. He had always been curious about alien biology, culture, and behavior. To him, the Valari were not just dangerous, they were fascinating. Were one of the oldest known spacefaring races. Their cities floated in the clouds, their minds linked by something like telepathy. And their technology was grown, it's not built. But what truly caught Mark's attention was the mystery of their females. According to old reports, Valari females were taller, stronger, and more intelligent than their male counterparts. They were warriors, scientists, rulers, and completely off limits. Every record about them ended with the same warning: avoid contact. Mark didn't understand why. Was it fear, a cultural wound, or something else? Arrival at Kellerist. Dauntless Horizon landed on the moon city of Kelleris, the Valari diplomatic hub. Its buildings rose like crystals from the white surface, shimmering with blue energy lines.
Ow.
The city was quiet. It's too quiet. The human crew wore formal uniforms. Mark kept his eyes open, scanning everything: the air, the plants, the sky. Everything about this place felt alien but beautiful. They were led through large halls by quiet Valari males. The males wore long robes and kept their heads down. None made eye contact. The halls were decorated with strange symbols and moving lights that seemed to dance when no one was watching. Then they entered the great chamber. Inside were 12 Valari matrons, standing in a circle. They were tall, almost 7 feet, and each wore armor made of shimmering scales that looked like metal but moved like cloth. Their eyes were sharp, glowing with faint silver light. These were the females everyone was warned about. Captain Vance bowed respectfully. The rest of the crew followed, even Mark. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. "Humans," said the High Matron in perfect English, "you may speak. You are guests. You are watched." Her voice was both kind and dangerous, like silk hiding steel. The mistake that wasn't the meeting continued. Captain Vance gave a short speech about peace and cooperation. The Valari matrons listened. No one interrupted. No one smiled. Their expressions were unreadable. Then something unexpected happened. As the crew turned to leave, Mark caught sight of a glowing flower growing near the chamber wall. Its petals moved like they were breathing. His scientific curiosity took over. He stepped away from the group, just a few steps, just enough to get a closer look. The room froze. Several Valari guards reached for their weapons. One matron narrowed her eyes. A quiet alarm tone echoed once in the hall. Mark didn't notice. His eyes were fixed on the flower. Then one of the matrons moved. She stepped forward, calm, controlled, and taller than all the others. Her armor shimmered like moonlight. Her voice was sharp, but not angry. "Human, why do you leave your group?" Mark turned quickly. He realized he had broken the rule. Instead of stammering, he answered honestly, "I'm sorry. That flower, it's alive. But it's reacting to motion. I think it's part of your city's sensory system, right? Bio-linked to the walls." There was silence. The Valari guards froze. The matrons looked at each other. The tall female stepped closer. "You understand biosentience?" Mark nodded. "It's rare, but we've seen similar life forms on Earth's deep ocean floor. I didn't mean to offend. I was just curious." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the matron spoke again. "Curious. You are the first to speak without fear." She turned away and walked back to her place in the circle. "Let the humans stay one more day." A new path back aboard the ship, Mark was pulled aside by Captain Vance. "What were you thinking?" she said. Not angrily, but not gently either. "I saw something I didn't understand," I asked. "I didn't mean to break any rule. You could have gotten us all thrown out or worse." "But I didn't," Mark replied quietly. "She spoke to me. She didn't strike me down. Maybe they're not what we think." Captain Vance stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Whatever happens next, it's on you." That night, Mark looked out the ship's window. In the distance, he could see the lights of Kalarus. Somewhere down there, the Valerie matron who spoke to him still stood, watching, thinking, and for the first time in many years, a Valari female had allowed a human to speak and live. Something was changing. Something big. The next morning on the moon city of Kalaris was quiet but tense. News of the human who spoke directly to a Valari matron had already spread. Most Valari saw it as shocking. Some saw it as dangerous, but a few saw it as interesting. Lieutenant Mark Relin didn't know what to expect. He thought they would be sent home, or punished. Instead, a message came from the Valari Council. The human scientist is invited to speak with Matron Shalanra in the inner gardens. Captain Vance stared at the message. "This has never happened before," she said. "You broke protocol. Now you're being asked to meet one-on-one with a matron. Either they're testing you or something strange is going on." Which Mark didn't argue. He was already packing his field notebook and translator device. This is a chance to learn something no human ever has. Or to disappear forever, the captain warned. "Be careful, Mark." The Garden of Scythi inner gardens were not like any garden Mark had seen before. The plants didn't stay still. They moved with the wind or maybe with thought. Soft lights glowed under the ground and a sweet scent filled the air. Giant trees with crystal-like leaves shimmered. Above and there, sitting beside a still silver pool, was Ashalanra. She was taller than Mark remembered. Her skin had a pale glow like moonlight, and her eyes were silver, calm but sharp. Her armor was gone. She wore a long robe made of woven light and energy threads. Mark bowed slightly as he had been taught. "You are not afraid," she said. It wasn't a question. Her voice was smooth, like wind over water. "Should I be?" he asked quietly. "Others are." Mark sat across from her on a stone bench. He noticed small flying creatures in the air, tiny, soft, like glowing birds. They made no sound, but floated gently between the trees. "I study life," he said. "Fear gets in the way of learning." She raised an eyebrow, slightly amused. "Your people study to learn? My people study to remember." "Remember what?" "The time before trust was broken?" Mark leaned forward. "Is that why your females are kept apart from outsiders?" There was a long pause. "Yes," she said finally. "Long ago, we shared freely. We loved other species. We gave knowledge, healing, power. But we were betrayed. One species used our gifts to make weapons. Millions died. Since then, we closed our hearts. And now," Ashalanra looked up at the glowing leaves. "Now we watch. We wait. But you spoke with no fear. You looked at something beautiful, not someone dangerous. That is rare." Mark stayed silent, letting her words fill the space. He knew one wrong sentence could end everything, eh? Conversation beyond words, they talked for over an hour. Mark asked about the living structures of Kylaris. She explained that every building was grown, not built. Valari used special seeds and songs to shape their homes. He asked about the flowers that responded to sound. She showed him a vine that moved when it heard certain notes, like a musical animal. And she asked him questions, too. Why do humans risk so much just to explore? Because not knowing is worse than danger, Mark replied. Why do you speak honestly, even when it offends others? Because lies don't build bridges. At one point, she touched the pool beside them, shimmered, and showed a moving image and old memory. Showed a group of alien ships attacking a peaceful Valerie world. Flames, screams, and a matron. Falling from the sky? That was my grandmother, she said softly. Killed while trying to protect her people. Mark felt a cold sadness in his chest. I'm sorry, he said. We can't undo the past. But maybe we can build something new. She looked at him again. This time her eyes were softer, a hidden watcher far above. In a tower shaped like a blooming star, two older Valari males watched the scene through a crystal screen. She speaks to the human freely, one said. His tone was full of concern. This is not tradition, said the other. If the matrons grow close to humans, old laws may break. Then we must act soon. Back to the ship, when Mark returned to the dauntless horizon, the crew surrounded him with questions. But he didn't tell them everything. Some things were too new, too fragile to explain. Captain Vance pulled him aside. Well, she's not like what the reports say, Mark replied. She's curious, thoughtful, wounded, but not broken. And she spoke to you? Alone? Yes. For a long time. The captain looked out the window at the glowing Valari city. They've never done that before, Mark nodded. I think she wants to understand us. But something tells me not everyone is happy about it. That night, a soft chime echoed in Mark's room. His datapad lit up. A new message. From Ashalinra 2, Mark Relin, there are those who will resist change. Be cautious, but do not stop. I will speak for you if you will speak for me. Mark smiled. For the first time, it felt like he wasn't just learning about another species, he was building a bridge between two worlds. But bridges can be fragile, and storms were coming. The days passed slowly on the moon city of Kylaris, but inside the dauntless horizon, the atmosphere grew tense and restless. Lieutenant Mark Relin could feel the weight of many eyes on him, both from his own crew and the silent Valar watching. From afar, while Mark and Matron Ashalenra had begun a quiet friendship, others in the Valerie Council were less pleased. A council divided deep within the Valerie High Tower, the council gathered. The room was circular, with glowing blue light rising from the floor. 12 Valar elders sat in silence, their eyes like bright stars. One elder, Valdrin, spoke first. The human has broken the sacred law. He approached the matrons without permission. This cannot be allowed. Another older female, Sereth, shook her head. Mark Relin showed respect. The matron accepted him. He cannot ignore the possibility of peace. Valdrin's eyes flashed. Peace or weakness? Our people have survived by keeping distance. We do not trust Isili. This human could be a spy, or worse. The council was torn. For centuries, the Valari had protected themselves behind walls of silence and isolation. Now, a single human's actions threatened to tear those walls down. Growing closer, meanwhile, Mark and Ashalana met daily in the inner gardens. The conversations deepened beyond curiosity. They spoke of history, of dreams, and of the loneliness that came with great responsibility. One day, Ashalanra showed Mark a room filled with floating crystals each, one holding a memory of her people. This is our past, she said softly. Every joy, every pain. Mark touched one carefully. Inside, he saw a vision of a Valari village destroyed by war, children crying in the dust. I never knew your story, Mark whispered. Few do, she replied. Most see only our power, but there is sorrow beneath. Warning from within, not all Valari were silent observers. A faction led by the stern matron Dalasria believed Mark's presence was a threat. One evening, as Mark returned to the dauntless horizon, a warning arrived. Anonymous message. Trust no one. Your life is in danger. The matron Dalasria plans to end this alliance. Mark showed the message to Captain Vance. Can we trust this? She asked. I don't know, Mark admitted. But I can feel their eyes on me. The trial of Echo Firetto prove Mark's sincerity and earn the trust of the Velari. The council proposed a test an ancient rite known as the Trial of Echofira. No non-Velari had ever survived it. Ashalanara came to Mark with a quiet hope. If you pass, you will be accepted. If you fail, your fate is unknown. Mark nodded. I will try. Entering the trial began in a vast chamber deep beneath Calaris. The walls were alive with glowing symbols that shifted and changed. Responding to Mark's presence, a soft voice spoke, "Face your fears. Show your truth." Mark was surrounded by visions, memories, fears, and challenges. He saw his family home on Earth. It was quiet and safe. He saw battlefields where friends had fallen. He felt the loneliness of being the outsider, the constant weight of expectations. Each vision tested his heart and mind. Strength through Wiltha. Trial was not about strength of arms, but strength of spirit. When the visions grew darkest, showing failure, loss, and despair, Mark held on to his resolve. He remembered his purpose, to build understanding, not walls. He faced each challenge with honesty and courage, never turning away. The final moment at last, the chamber filled with light. The symbols stopped moving. The voice returned. You have shown truth and strength. You may live among us. Mark opened his eyes. He was alone, but no longer afraid. After the trial, Lashalanea met him outside the chamber. Her silver eyes were full of respect. You have done what no human has done before. You carry our trust. But Mark noticed the shadow behind her, the tense looks of others watching. The path ahead was still uncertain. After passing the trial of Echofire, Lieutenant Mark Rellan returned to the surface of Calaris with a new title, a trusted guest of the Velari matrons. But the peaceful moments were short. Beneath the shining towers and glowing gardens, shadows moved, and not all of them welcomed a human so close to the inner circle. The gathering storming the high tower. Matron Dallasria gathered her followers. Her face was hard like stone. She paced slowly. Mark Rellan's success threatens everything we've built. Trust is a weapon we cannot hand to outsiders. Her followers murmured in agreement. We must act before the council loses control. Planned carefully. Hiding their intentions behind polite words and silent glances. A hidden trap back on the dauntless horizon. Mark's days were filled with meetings and shared knowledge. He worked closely with Matron Ashalanra, translating human science into Velari terms, and learning the secrets of Velari biotechnology. But one evening, a shocking message arrived on his datapad, a fabricated report claiming Mark had broken a sacred Velari law during a private meeting. The news spread quickly through the city, accused the council convened in emergency session. Mark stood before the Velari elders, confusion and worry growing in his chest. You are accused of disrespecting the sacred codes, Valdrin announced, voice cold. This is serious offense. Mark tried to speak, but the room was filled with whispers and stares. I was with Ashalanra. She knows the truth. Ashalanra stepped forward, her calm voice strong. Mark did nothing wrong. These accusations are false and meant to divide us. Some matrons nodded, but others looked away. The choice Mark knew the situation was dangerous. If the council believed the false charges, he could lose everything in his life. Not run, he said firmly. I came here to build bridges. We'll stand for truth. Ashalanra placed her hand on his arm. We will face this together. The trial of words. Instead of a physical trial, the council demanded a public debate.
Mark was to defend himself before all Velarian humans present.
The great chamber, filled with tension as Mark stepped forward. I stand here not as a stranger, but as a friend, he began. I came seeking peace. I have shown respect to your laws and your people. He spoke of the trial he endured, of the trust Ashalanra gave him, and the knowledge they had shared. We are not enemies. We are not threats. We are explorers, learners, and allies. His voice grew stronger. If fear drives us apart, we all lose. Vote of trust after. Hours of discussion, the council voted. The false charges were dismissed. Mark was allowed to remain but under watch. More importantly, the vote marked a change. For the first time, the Valerie were willing to consider open relations with humans. New role captain. Vance approached Mark after the vote. You've done more than survive here. You've started something. Mark nodded. This is only the beginning. The Valari are not easy to understand or to change. But with Ashalana's help, we can build a future. Ashalana joined them. We must move carefully. There are still many who fear what they do not know. A quiet celebration that night. The inner gardens were alive with soft lights and gentle music. Mark Ashalana and a small group of Valarian humans shared a meal. The barriers between species seemed to fade. Mark looked around and smiled. To trust, he said simply, and for a moment the universe felt just a little smaller. The days after the council's vote were filled with hope, but also quiet fear. Lieutenant Mark Rellan and Matron Ashalanra both knew that not everyone accepted the new path of peace between humans and the Valari. Shadows moved in the halls, and dangers waited behind smiles. A secret meeting one night. In a hidden room beneath the city, Matron Dallasria met with her most loyal followers. Her eyes burned with anger. Mark Rellan has become a symbol of change, but change is a threat to our people. She leaned forward. We cannot allow this alliance. We must strike before it grows strong. One of her followers, a sharp-eyed Valerie named Corvan, spoke quietly. We have spies among the humans. Our technology is vulnerable if we act swiftly. Then we will act swiftly, Dallasria said. A sudden attack the next day. As Mark was meeting with scientists in the Knowledge Exchange Hall, alarms blared through Caleres. Security breach. Unauthorized access detected. Mark and Ashalana rushed outside. They saw Valari guards rushing toward the city gates, while human soldiers prepared to defend. What's happening? Mark asked. Ashalana's face was serious. An attack. Someone wants to stop us. Fighting together, the attackers were disguised as Valari, but moved with strange, hurried motions. They tried to sabotage the city's power and communication systems. Mark quickly organized a small team of humans and Valari guards. Protect the control center, he ordered. Fighting side by side, humans and Valari moved with surprising coordination. Mark's quick thinking stopped a group trying to blow up the main power core. The betrayal revealed after the attackers were driven back. Shalan-Ra revealed the truth. This was no outside enemy. It was the faction led by Dallasria. Mark frowned. Why would your own people do this? Fear. They believe peace with humans will bring ruin. Mark stand back in the great chamber. Mark faced the council again. This time, the threat was greater. I did not come here to fight, he said, but I will stand for peace. He looked at the faces of the matrons. Your people are brave and strong, so are mine. Together, we can be stronger. Ashalanra stepped beside him. We will face these challenges together. A new beginning. The council agreed to strengthen security and open talks with human leaders. The path was dangerous, but it was a path forward. Mark looked at Ashalanra and smiled. We've survived this trial. We can survive the next. The city of Caleres felt different now. The lights glowed a little brighter. The streets were quieter, not from fear, but from calm. Humans and Valari walked side by side, no longer avoiding one another. They spoke in simple words, traded small gifts, and began learning Dash together. At the heart of it all stood Lieutenant Mark Rellan, no longer just a visitor from Earth, but something more, a symbol of trust. Mark's new place mark had been given. Permission to live within the Crystal Spire, a place once forbidden to outsiders. It was a living structure, walls that pulsed with energy, floors that sang softly when touched. Valari scientists visited often, eager to share knowledge. Young learners came too, asking questions about Earth, about humans, and about the stars beyond. Still, Mark stayed humble. He knew this was not only about him, it was about what his presence meant. Every step forward had been earned with truth, courage, and respect. Ashalanra, as Vision Matron Ashalanra, now held more influence than ever before. The Council of Matrons had named her ambassador to Earth, the first of her kind to step beyond Valari's space in 100 years. But before she could begin her mission, She asked for one thing. "Let there be a place," she said to the council, "where Valari and humans can learn together, not as guests or outsiders, but as equals." The council approved the idea. Plans began for a joint learning station, orbiting between Earth and Valari space, a symbol of hope, a bridge of understanding. The Day of Unity, and the Day of Unity, a new holiday made by both species. Ceremony was held on the shining platform. Above Calaris, humans and Valari stood side by side. Flags of both races waved in the soft wind. Lights floated in the air like glowing stars. Captain Alira Vance stepped forward first. "We humans have always looked to the stars with wonder, but today we don't just see light, we see connection." Matron Ashalanra followed. "We were silent for too long, but today we speak with new voices, not to command, not to fear, but to grow." And finally, Mark was called. He stepped forward quietly, his face calm, his heart full. "I was just a scientist," he began. "Curious, maybe too curious." A few quiet laughs from the crowd. "But when I first met the Valari, I didn't see enemies. I saw questions, I saw beauty, and I saw pain." He paused. "We come from different worlds, but in the end, we want the same things: peace, purpose, and someone to listen when we speak." He looked out at the crowd. "So let's keep listening." The crowd stood in applause, Valari and human alike. The first step into the unknown, a week later. The joint learning station opened for its first guests. Young Valari students arrived, their minds open. Human teachers welcomed them, and Earth. Children came to learn about music made from light, trees that could think, and science sung through sound. Mark and Ashalana visited the station together. They watched a group of children, one human, one Valari building, a model of a shared city. "This is what the future looks like," Mark whispered. Ashalana smiled softly. "Not made by the powerful, not made by the old, but by the young, who are not afraid." A gift from the past. One evening, Ashalana brought Mark to the Vault of Memory, where the Valari stored ancient knowledge and lost stories. She handed him a small crystal. "This is yours now," she said. Mark held it up. Inside the crystal, a light flickered.
8.
A recording played his voice during his trial. "We are not enemies. We are not threats." He turned to her in surprise. "Why keep this?" "Because it was the moment everything changed." Looking ahead, time passed. The alliance grew stronger. New projects began. New friendships formed. And, though challenges remained, fear no longer ruled. Mark continued his work, not as a hero, not as a leader, but as a listener, a bridge, and a friend. Final scene. One night, as stars sparkled above, Mark stood on the balcony of the learning station. Ashalenra stood beside him. They said nothing for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Do you miss Earth?" "Sometimes," Mark said. "But I think this is home now." She nodded. Above them, two flags waved, one human. One Valar together, under the same sky, and far beyond, other stars waited.